Okay, it's 7:03 and I'll call this meeting of the Urbana Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission to order. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Here.
Annie Adams,
Here.
Shannon Baranek,
Here.
Kara Dudek,
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle, Audrey Ishii, Susan Jones, Jeff Marino, Sarthak Prasad,
Present.
Nancy Westcott,
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum of 6. And today we will have a closed session to consider security procedures. So we need a motion to go into closed session, and you can pretty much read that when you make the motion to consider security procedures pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C8. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll move to go to closed session for security procedures pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C8.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and we need a roll call for this one, though we won't need roll calls for others, I don't think.
Bill Brown,
Yes?
Annie Adams. Here. Shannon Baranek,
Yes.
Kara Dudek,
Yes.
Sarthak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. So we will leave the council chambers for probably 20 minutes, you think, Shannon?
I
Half
don't
hour?
think it took that long when Carol walked us through it, so.
Okay, so if anybody's tuned in from home, we'll probably be back in about 20 minutes. Okay, now we are back in, returning to open session. Could we have a motion to return to open session?
I motion to return to open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Shannon and second by Sartak. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Yes?
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Shannon Baranek,
Yes.
Kara Dudek,
Yes.
Sarthak Prasad,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
That motion carries. So we are back in open session, and we're on item number 3 on the agenda. Additions to the agenda. Are there any additions you'd like to consider tonight? Seeing none, let's go down to number 4, approval of minutes from previous meetings. Should have received 2 sets of minutes, one from May and one from June, because we didn't have a quorum last month at the beginning. So did anybody have any corrections or additions for those minutes? Nope. Then could we have a motion to, can we do them both together? Or do we need 2 separate motions? I think we can do both together, yeah. Could we have a motion to approve the May and June minutes?
I move that we move the May and June minutes.
Is there a s-
Second.
Okay, moved by Nancy, seconded by Kara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? That motion carries. Yep. That was fun. Haven't been able to do that for over a year. Okay. Public input. I don't see anyone necessarily from the public. I don't know. Lily, are you public tonight? No? Okay. Doesn't look like we have any public input tonight. Okay, unfinished business, equity and quality of life projects. Carol, we're going to kind of lead us in a discussion on that?
Yes, and I have,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, for bringing up my slides. So what you have in front of you, I have just put into a slide deck so that folks who might be watching can follow along. So last month, I guess it was, I came and asked if you all would agree to assist in setting a framework for the equity and quality of life capital project that we created in the recent CIP. And this is a new capital project. It's $2 million. And the goal of it is to have a series of, discrete but smaller projects that actually will help folks in the community in small but very important ways to improve their quality of life, and we're trying to focus on areas where maybe there's been underinvestment in infrastructure in the past. So what I had, and so I'm just going to walk through this, but what we had talked about last time was creating a framework first for how the projects would be evaluated, and then having a process for reviewing proposals, accepting and reviewing proposals. So what I wanted to start with is the rating system, because I think that's something I'd like to get feedback on before I sort of draft up a whole sort of application form. So let me just review what we had talked about a little bit last time. So the types of infrastructure projects that we'll consider are enhancements for pedestrian travel safety, enhancements for bicycle travel safety, and enhancements for personal safety. So we're trying to, broaden the thinking about safety to not just be, cars versus pedestrians and cars versus bicycles, but this broader sense of safety that could involve, safety from crime. So examples of those would be street lights, sidewalks where sidewalks are missing or significantly deteriorated, and traffic calming. And just a note here, all proposed enhancements must be located in the public right-of-way to be eligible, because that will allow us to implement them a lot quicker than if we had to negotiate with private property owners. So this whole next piece is just a draft, straw man, this is just a starting point for conversation. This scoring system is based off of a program that I'm familiar with from a jurisdiction where I used to work, where they had neighborhood enhancements that are much broader than this is intended to address. But to have it be as transparent as possible, and to help the people who are making proposals make their proposals as strong as possible, there was a very discrete point system, and they explained how those points were assigned up front, so you knew how to strengthen your proposal. So again, these categories and the points are just a starting point for conversation. So first is things that are indicative of physical safety. So in a given location, it would be if there was a documented fatality at a given location from any cause. So it could be a pedestrian or bicycle accident, but it could also be somebody who had been shot or stabbed or whatever, or a documented injury at the location, again, from any cause. So you get more points if there was a documented fatality, less points if there's documented injury. There might be other categories you want to fit into there, but it's about how do we kind of denominate physical safety. Then personal safety. So I have here documented NIBRS Group A crime within one block. So NIBRS is a way, it's a national, it's a rating system for crime. I can't remember what it stands for. But it's taking the place of it's the new system that they have. And it's a national system. So Group A crimes are more serious crimes. Group B crimes are less serious crimes. So if you can document a serious crime or less serious crime within one block of the location. And again, all these are just draft placeholders. Neighborhood need. So here would be, you'd have a way of categorizing, documenting a low to moderate income area. So HUD has a definition for that. And then community support. This was another aspect of the program that I was used to, where you get people in the community to say, yes, we really want this. So if it's not just one person's idea, it's really like there's strong support in the community. So they used a petition system, just offering that as a possibility here. Then the last couple of categories are proximity to schools. So one could be if it's part of a documented safe route to school, it would get more points. If it was within a quarter of a mile of a school, it would get some points, but not as many if it was part of a safe routes to school. Another would be the availability of matching resources. So you get some points if it's 50% or less, and then you get more points if it's more than 50%. So those are just kind of broad categories. So what I'm looking for at this point is just some general feedback about what do you think about a rating system like this? What do you think about these categories? Does anything else occur to you? This will go into something that is more robust because Bill was kind enough to share some sample applications from one is ITEP and one is another, I guess it's a campus program.
Sustainability Committee, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll put this in a broader context, but I'm looking for some feedback initially on this type of scoring system, these categories, and so on.
So Tim tasked me with doing a traffic calming research for possible future traffic calming policy, and actually this is very reminiscent of a lot of things I found in that. So your rating system, your petitions, I'm like, I have looked at all this already. So it's people borrow from each other all the time. This is, yeah. So and I looked up NIBRS real quick because as soon as you couldn't remember, I couldn't remember either. It's National Incident Based Reporting.
Thank you.
I see a lot about safety, but not so much about other quality of life issues like, street lights would be safety, but streetscapes, or last time we mentioned some neighborhoods might have flooding problems, which isn't necessarily a safety issue. I suppose it could be, but more of a quality of life issue. So could there be maybe an expansion of that list to include some of these other things that might also qualify as capital projects?
So in terms of type of project, to what would you propose?
Well,
Enhancements for stormwater management?
Bill, one thing an article that I'm going to send out to everybody is about trees. They just did a study that neighborhoods that have a lot of trees, crime rates drop in them significantly. So I think that's part of something we all talk about, are creating low-stress spaces. So I'll send that out later this week, the article about trees, but I think that's kind of what, I don't know if that's what you're trying to get at, but that's something, because obviously in 110-degree heat, you don't want to walk on a street that doesn't have trees or, yeah.
I mean, when I think of some of the inequities in neighborhoods, sometimes the streetscapes stand out a little bit, I think. I don't know. And then the within quarter mile of schools, I like the idea of part of documented safe route to school. Within a quarter miles of schools could also bias the selection toward already supported neighborhoods in a way, because our high school and middle school are in pretty well-to-do areas. I mean, better than average areas in Urbana.
I don't know. I mean, this weekend I did the Urbana Amble, and, Fairlawn is in desperate need of assistance, so people could actually walk to school. And, to get to there's a ton of enhancement for pedestrians by Carl Park, but there's the pedestrian enhancements for people trying to cross, I always confuse that street, Vine Street, are a rollout sign that Cynthia Hoyle purchased. I mean, that's, and so when I was talking to neighbors there about speeding cars and like creating like the family-friendly Fairlawn 1 mile out to Cottage Grove, they were like, that would be amazing. So but anyway, so again, it's just creating the idea of, I guess, low-stress spaces is what I kind of keep coming back to.
Yeah, I think some of the especially high school students coming from the north side of University Avenue, there are connections, short connections that could be made that wouldn't necessarily be within a quarter mile of a school, but they would be using them to get to school. So I'd focus more on the routes to school than the proximity to schools, maybe.
Okay.
Connectivity.
So do you want, would you eliminate the proximity, straight up proximity?
Well, I'd say just rename it
Routes?
connectivity to
Oh,
schools, maybe.
connectivity, okay.
Yeah, because connectivity then could bring in Anderson at Washington, because students can't cross that street on their own right now because we don't have a crosswalk there. So connectivity would bring in like that street or some sort of activity like that the neighbors would like.
Would you add any other sub?
Well, yeah,
I keep going back to near misses. So like, again, the only reason I know this neighborhood so well is because I lived there for many years, is Washington and Cottage Grove has a ton of accidents, a ton of near misses. Like about once a month a car is hit there. It's not really great for humans who are not in vehicles either. In fact, I know the person that lives on the corner there won't let her children bike to school because it's too dangerous to even cross the street in front of her house. So I don't know though. I mean, I look at your list and I think this is just fantastic. And I just can't think of how to do near misses or how to do like,
Well, we could do accident history.
Yeah, that's what you have. You actually have that. I thought that was, you don't have accident history.
Don't have accident
You are
history.
good point there.
Could make
Yeah.
that- Put that in the first one.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
'Cause
that's
the-
what I keep thinking about. Like, how do we
Yeah,
document
I'll add that.
Yeah, because that's what we're trying to get, like anything where people continually are confused about how to behave in a space, we want to change that behavior somehow.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's,
And maybe connectivity to parks. I mean, Inbucks Park is kind of in an odd location across University Avenue. I don't know that
Yes.
it's that easy to actually get there. What's that?
Yeah.
Involves state right away, which is hard.
Is your mic on?
No, that involves state right away, which can be, kind of goes to Carol's first point of must be in the public right away. So we'd have to work with IDOT on that one, so it might be a more difficult task. Not that they'd be opposed to it. I mean, IDOT is moving towards a more safety-oriented system. I mean, they put the stuff in Muhammad to fix the shoulders where the bicyclist was hit. So, I mean, it's something we'd have to consider, so. Like,
and another thing I'm gonna send out is IDOT just put out a whole thing about traffic circles and, about how they drop safety. So I'll send that out later, but I was really excited to see that. But you were
How they
saying safe
improve
routes.
Safety?
What?
How they improve safety?
Yeah, how they drop accidents by like 70%, because there's just less choices, less pinch points. But they did a great job with infographics and everything. I was like, wow, IDOT, go team. But I was gonna say safe routes to parks. Is that you're trying to think of like safe routes to parks or some kind of connectivity to parks?
The connectivity to parks and also to some business areas have very poor connectivity. Mostly I'm thinking about University Avenue is
Maybe that proximity to the schools, you could rename connectivity to schools, parks,
Yeah,
And-
destinations.
destinations
Yeah.
or something, and then you could list the safe routes to school as one item under that, and then some of the others people have mentioned.
Yeah, it could be like connects to 5 destinations, but that destination could be a park, a church, a grocery store, and something else, and then you can just add up like those things that people are trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that like accessibility and ADA in its truest form could be on this point scale. Like, I'm sure that the city has some sort of ADA transition plan, and if it's in there or if it adds like a curb cut or something like that. And then I just had another note too about, is this project in another city plan or initiative, right?
Mm.
Maybe like in citizen wouldn't necessarily be interested in combing through all of the things that we have, but they, like it could be related to stormwater or bike infrastructure or, a housing development and whatever, and you could get points that it like covers another initiative that already exists.
Yes, it looks like maybe some of these would be at the application level and others would be kind of scored after, maybe it's too soon to jump ahead, but if there was a phase 1 and phase 2 of the application process, I'd say maybe put community support in phase 2, maybe a statement early in phase 1 saying that, why it would be supported by the community, but then if it's selected to go on to phase 2, they would go out and collect the signatures, because collecting signatures could be a barrier to submit a phase 1 application.
Yeah.
Safe Routes to School makes you do that ahead of time, and I think that's actually how projects get selected. Like, if you don't have community support, why go through the onerous application process? So I would actually put community support should be the first thing you need, because if, 30% of people are in favor, but 70% are not, why would you proceed? So.
You can get fewer applications, but
Nancy, I know you went door to door
yeah.
with like the slow streets. What's your, as a person who has gone door to door recently, what's your call on that?
Well, it seems like it depends on the timing of the application process. Because if you want applications within a month, I think getting signatures beforehand would be it would be onerous. If the application process were 3 months, then phase 1 would probably be a good idea. And I suspect, I don't know. I think actually getting the word out to people might be a little tricky also, because in some of these areas you may have to go to churches and businesses and maybe non-Facebook kind of things to get the word out, to get applications. So you might have to go to businesses or to, I don't know, neighborhood. I don't know how many active neighborhood groups there are.
Not that many.
I think there's a couple different kinds of community support too, and I understand Shannon needing community support if it's going to have an imposition on the community, like closing streets or changing signage or something. But if it's building a sidewalk or making a connection or adding lighting, it seems like if the applicant could just, in a statement, say why it would, why they believe it would obtain community support for phase 1, and then phase 2 actually go out and collect the signatures to prove it. But
Or we could have, kind of like how you just described, have two separate, like, we don't really, unless we're changing brick sidewalks, we don't typically ask people, we just put them in to be like, oh, great, a sidewalk, this is awesome. So, like, sidewalk projects or lighting probably wouldn't need community support, but like, if, like you said, like, changing the geometry of a road or putting in new signage or traffic calming, that would probably need the public input of people who live near it, so.
okay.
It's also possible that we might want to reserve that as something that we use more as a tiebreaker. I mean, we don't know how many applications we're going to get. If we could have, some small projects that we can do all of them, and they all just make sense, and we don't have to pick and choose. We can just do all of them, but we might get a lot, and then we'll need to, rack and stack them, and that might be something that we could say, okay, now we have to decide, and we need you to go out and see where the real, drivers are, and use it that way and keep it in reserve.
Yeah, and so then my question is, and I know this is getting in the weeds possibly, but communication strategy. So for example, I did the Urbana Amble, and I was able to put a call out in a variety of places, but there are neighborhoods that I did not get. And so when I did get one person in one of those neighborhoods, I said, how do people communicate in your neighborhood, if they're not, on Facebook, or if they're not here, and it was like next door. So the variety, there's a WUNA listserv, there's a Historic East Urbana, there's a HUNA Facebook group, and so now there's next door, I found out, for a certain neighborhood. And so it's like trying to, what I don't like is I feel like I didn't reach I didn't reach every neighborhood, not that everyone wants to do something, but it was more like I just would have liked, you know, I'd have liked to have had a little more diversity in a few ways in that project. So that's my only question, is I'm not sure how we reach people, which I'm just bringing that up.
I think we're going to have to rely on our council members to help us
Mhm.
reach into areas for some of
For,
this.
I like that
Sorry.
idea a lot. I think that's a great idea.
That is something I've been thinking about.
The- Oh,
I'll just say one more thing regarding what Annie said. The thing that we did find in the slow streets is that we had thought of several streets that we should make slow, but when we actually talked to people along those streets, something totally different came up. Like on High Street, they wanted their stop sign, their yield signs changed to stop signs. That was much more important to them than having their street, which was already slow, designated as a slow street. They wanted, so I think if you actually, and on the Anderson, they wanted a street light on that street. That was kind of what they saw as critically important. So sometimes talking to people really does kind of clarify what the neighborhood really thinks is important.
For the requirement that it must be located in the public right-of-way, seems like that could exclude projects that might require a little bit of purchase, like, I mean, I know there was quite a bit on the Green Street project, but, or you were talking about maybe $200,000 to $500,000 projects, right?
Well, I'm hoping that they don't go above 250, but if they did, I mean, but,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, we did the Kinch Street lighting project that went from Washington to Florida. That was about 220, and that was about a
Okay.
dozen streetlights. So that's what I mean, you can use, that's pretty substantial.
I'm just thinking for some of the, like, I don't know about the connection for Church Street that we talked about last time, that would continue Church Street across Lincoln from the retreat over to make that connection. I don't know if the city already owns that or if there's some. Well, there's a barrier by, I think
There's a land barrier, like, because I
Oh.
actually designed that path, and we had to stop it there because that's where city property ended, so.
okay. So there may be a little chunk of right-of-way there. I mean, I think the city does own some right-of-way. No, maybe not. Maybe all that would have to be purchased. I don't know. It just seems like some of these connections would require purchase of right-of-way, but you're saying this fund, you don't want to do that with?
Well, just remember, this is brand new. And so as we think about it, we'd like things to be easy to execute. If we find that, oh, wow, we have way more than we can do, and so we're gonna do a first batch, and we're gonna do the easy stuff, and now we have a whole batch of harder things, you know, but this is new, so we're, at least initially, we'd like to start with things that are easy to execute.
And this is maybe getting in the weeds, but like if there is like a planting trees element and you need volunteers, you can just put my name down for that. I'll plant some trees. But like seriously, like if there's like, if you end up at the end of this, you're like, oh my God, we have $250. What can we possibly do? Well, we can purchase 250 plants and we can, I'd be willing to organize Urbana Amblers to plant 250 trees in locations as needed or something like that. So I'm just trying to say there can be an additional community element and assistance with this if it gets to that
Sure.
point where you're trying to just
And just for your
spend
general
some money.
information, we have a grant from the Lumpkin Family Fund to do, and this kind of inspired part of the approach to this project, where the grant funded a study of places where, underserved areas where we don't have enough tree cover, and then it also provided funding along with a generous donation from a private individual to plant trees. So we have funds for trees, and which is great. So that kind of inspired, like, what else can we do infrastructure-wise in underserved areas? And so then it kind of rolled from there. Anything else?
Yes, I wanted to ask a couple of questions. So first thing was, what does matching resources actually mean? Like, what does availability of matching resources, what's that category?
So if there was, let's say we were going to do something in a commercial corridor, and somebody
Mhm.
said, well, we got a business to donate $10,000 towards this project. That's money that's going to,
Okay.
that we can leverage with that
Okay.
project.
Okay. Now, the second thing, as everybody almost pointed out, that if, let's say, there are more project applications. So I think this is going way forward, I'm pretty sure. But how would you prioritize these projects? Are these points based on, like, these are the maximum points out of which you'll be getting some points? Or is it, like, let's say there was a fatality or an injury right across the street and you get 10 points,
Mhm.
even though there was a street that's like 3 blocks away and there were 3 near misses, 3 injuries, they also get 10 points.
Right.
How would you prioritize
Well, I
in
think,
that case?
so I'd like this, whatever we end up with, you know, and we could decide that, hey, a fatality is not 10 points, it's 100 points, you know,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
These are all just, you know, numbers for talking purposes. But the idea is it's discrete. So it's 10 or 0, or it's 10 or 5 or 0, so that it's not all this, you know, these gradations. But then at some point, there's going to have to be people sitting down and going, okay, well, now we have to, now that, I think we're going to find that we have tiers of projects, that these are highly ranked, these are less highly ranked. We're going to have to do we're going to have to assist people in scoping the projects. They're going to just go, right here, I want something to happen. Then we go, okay, well, that really involves this entire block.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to help do estimates of the cost. And then at that point, in the program that I'm familiar with, what they did was they gave extra points, which we don't have to discreetly do here, but they gave extra points for projects that were $50,000 or less, because then you can do more. So I would suggest that when we get to the point where we're evaluating projects, then part of it is going to be fitting those projects into the available funds. And so we should be certainly taking the ones that are most highly rated, but also balancing that against doing more and
Yeah.
doing things that are readily implementable. So there'll be some judgment that gets applied at the end, I think.
I actually have a couple questions based on some of that. So engineering obviously is short-staffed. Who's designing the projects, like, once we pick them?
We're gonna have to hire somebody to do
Okay,
it.
so they will have to consider that in the budget then, too, of the project. So like,
Mhm.
if it's a $100,000 project, 20 grand on top of that for engineering services. Okay. And then who decides on, like, is there gonna be a committee for the project list? Like, who's the application decider?
Well, perhaps you all would like to do that and ultimately, I think we'd like to make recommendations to the council or whatever that, you know, because this is a capital project that is not defined. So, you know, typically we don't just have pools of money that we randomly spend. So I think it would be appropriate to at least bring the council along and get some feedback generally there. So, but it would be great if you all would, you know, play that role and make a set of recommendations.
And I'll go back to the communication question again. A lot of times people don't know, they're not as geeky as I am about, like, street infrastructure. And so when I say, you do know if there was a crosswalk here, the cars would not drag race down Washington. And people just don't know things like that. Like, they think, like, it is what it is. Stuff is how it is. So I guess I go back to the communication aspect of it, is how would people know, like, yes, I would like a bike rack in this location, or yes, I would like streetlights here, or, like, I don't know. I guess that's my other, like, how would people even know to, I guess, I mean, I'm probably jumping way ahead of the wagon here, but it's just like, I'm just curious how we'll get people to, like, say, do you have, you know, are there things you're interested in that you would like to have changed? That's my big question.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that the streetlight project on Kinch in particular, that was 20 years of talking about it. So people knew that they wanted streetlights, you know, and I think I think these are the things that we can offer, particularly streetlights and sidewalks. Traffic calming is a little bit more, like, what is that? Not everybody knows what that means, but people know if they want a stop sign. People know if they want, I think people understand sidewalks and streetlights. There may be a few other things that we want to prompt people with, like, this is what we mean when we say this, and just see what we get. And, I'm thinking, and these can come from anybody, and I suspect staff will have suggestions too. So, we could have people submitting 20 projects from one person. That doesn't make them any less valuable because they're all coming from the same source. So.
Okay, other
Okay.
comments or suggestions?
I'd just like to say that I'm really excited about this, and I think that, like, getting to what Annie said, the beauty of it maybe is just that, like, we're emphasizing that your lived experience as a resident is just as important as somebody who designed something, and it may just be a little bit of deciphering, right? Like, this is what the issue is. Oh, we understand, and this is, some of the things that you could do to remedy it, but we're really getting at, like, areas and people that have just, like, maybe been pushed aside because they weren't major issues, but the quality of life, the streetscape, the stormwater, connectivity, everything really matters, and so I'm pumped about this.
So it seemed to me the timeline was relatively fast, that you wanted decisions to be made. Are we talking about this fall sometime, or?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on how fast we can all move, and, since I'm at the moment, the point on this, you can only go as fast as I can go.
Okay, all right, I didn't know that if there was some budgetary
No,
kind of deadline that we had to.
no, there's no deadline.
Okay, all right.
Are you going to try to get some feedback from Community Development Commission on this too, or?
Hadn't thought about that, but that's a good idea. What I will have for you before your next meeting, so that it can be advertised to the public, is a more fleshed out sort of, okay, this is what the application's going to look like. So you'll have this or some version of this plus more. It's not going to be elaborate because this should be relatively simple for people to navigate. And but then the next thing will be to finalize that and then move ahead with soliciting project proposals.
One thing I just want to add, and IDOT implemented this in the ITEP grants, is they give a character maximum, so you don't have someone writing you a 9,000-page novel of why their project is the best project. And it also helps equalize the projects, because they used to actually have people like, I've seen the submissions, they're like this thick. Now everyone gets the same, every engineering house, park district, city council, same application, you're limited to this, and it does it helps also in review. So
It's a good idea.
having written several ITEP grants, it does help that too.
Yes, speaking of ITEP, another thing that they give extra points for, I think, is interjurisdictional cooperation, and just thinking in some areas where we have county-owned or township-owned right-of-way adjoining city-owned right-of-way, is there any possibility, that sounds like it might be a little too complicated for this project, because you're looking for smaller projects.
Yeah.
I think anything that involves interjurisdictional cooperation is probably going to be a multi-$100,000 project.
Yeah, and also just more staff time to
And-
coordinate and stuff.
And on other grants I've applied to, it's a similar concept, Bill. It's how many, like, can you get the park district on board? Can you get can you get community group on board? Can you get the health department on board? So it's like you get more points, the more like people that can get that buy-in on ideas. So that's not like that, the more, so it's a similar concept as like what you're saying about that, but it's like you have to be able to prove that you can have all these community folks buy into your idea or whatever it is. But again, I don't know how you would score that or what that means, but I do know that tends to be part of a community application process for community development things.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the other thing that I've been thinking of is that I think once we start putting it out, we'll have to have a map to go with it to show what areas are incorporated into this project.
Well,
You know, which parts
everything
of Urbana-
is, and anything in Urbana could be, it's just a question of, do you get points for being in an area
Yeah.
that
Well,
is-
I was thinking equity-wise, I mean, there's some areas that I would just leave out.
We can do that.
Truthfully, like, Woona, I would leave out.
Ooh, on the record.
Oh, I can say, I shouldn't say. But at any rate, it just seemed to me that if we're gonna, if we're talking about equity, we might, I thought you were saying something about, 50% above or above a certain, or
Well,
below a certain income
Well,
level or something.
If you like,
Well, that would be in the scoring, I think. I'd
Okay.
hate
sounds
to-
like you want to give more points, though, for neighborhood need than, so I'll,
The ITEP
Yeah.
grants use the
Amp that up.
census tracts for that to help like
Right.
identify that. So we can always steal from them too.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there, in parts of Urbana, there used to be a neighborhood cleanup, and that was all based on census tracts. So
Right.
that's what I was thinking.
Well, and that's how, that when it says documented low to moderate income area, that's based on census tracts, and it's using the HUD definition, so.
But I just don't, I'd prefer not to just restrict it to certain mapped areas, because especially when you're talking about connectivity, sometimes to make the connection between a poor area and the high school, you're gonna have to go through a rich area, so it just I wouldn't wanna just outlaw it.
Good point. I take back my
Off the top,
previous
you know.
comment.
But I like the idea of being able to requiring justification, so to make sure the people you're serving are in the high need equity areas, not necessarily where the project is. Thanks, Carol. I think that was
Thank you.
good for us. I don't know, was it
Oh, it
what
was
you
good
were
for me,
looking
too.
for?
Gonna go out and smoke a cigarette.
I would have turned my mic off for that one. Okay. Thanks. So Vision Zero update. Just have Cynthia was hoping to be able to do this remotely, but she picked the wrong meeting to try to do remotely since we're not on Zoom anymore. I do have an email from her. I'll try to find and just read what she said. And then I do have a list of the suggested task force, Vision Zero task force partners, membership suggestions. So I'll bring that up out there and we can officially vote on it. They actually presented it in March and we talked about it a couple times, but we actually never passed a motion to ask them to move forward. The next step would be to ask the mayor to invite these people to be on the task force. So that's what we're hoping to do by the end of August. So yeah, this is what Cynthia said. Jason is working to get the wiki map posted on the website. Her thoughts are to let a few people know about the map and survey as a pilot run until after the semester starts on August 23rd. With a few people filling it out, we can work out any issues before doing a lot of PR. Do we think we can ask the mayor's office to contact the stakeholders on our list and ask them to serve on Vision Zero task force before August 23rd? So if we pass this motion tonight, I can, Shannon, do you want to approach the mayor or should I approach the mayor and just ask her if she would be willing to invite these people?
I actually want clarification, I think Carol's to hear on who we can actually invite to that task force, like, because there seems there was ambiguity between, is it just BPAC as a separate entity during those meetings, or is it outside forces like the police and whatnot?
Yeah, I'll bring up that list.
No, but I'm saying, like, based on our resolution, is it, can we actually have these outside people? That's, like, I was unclear on that one.
If you want to invite people that are outside of city staff, you're welcome to do that, but we don't have the bandwidth to be having representation from different departments. We just don't.
Okay. I think the police was on the list. you're saying you don't think the police could provide a member?
Well, it's just, we're stretched really thin right now. And so to ask for that, I mean, if you have, it would be better if they could participate offline, if you wanted to send them questions or whatever, but to have people actually staffing it, that's problematic.
Okay. Okay, I'll finish this and I'll bring up the list.
Carol, could I ask you a quick question while you're here? Is this EQOL, one thing that we've been asking for is a full-time position for bike, pedestrian, transit, for that. Can this project staff a full-time position? Is that something that the project, or can this project staff someone to work on, like the way they were saying they could we could staff someone to do the design work for sidewalks? Couldn't this position staff somebody to help with Vision Zero, or is that not something that the equity and quality of life projects is that allowable?
That wasn't the intention. The intention is to put as much of it into actual infrastructure as possible. You know, Shannon asked me earlier about how these projects are going to get designed, and we're going to have to contract that out because we don't have sufficient staff to do that in-house. But you know, I know that you all made a request, or a request came forward. I can't remember if it came officially from BPAC or not, to add a full-time staff position for Vision Zero. But we don't have enough staff to even do the priorities that are reflected in the CIP. So, no, it's not going to be able to staff a Vision Zero position. But to the extent that you want to make recommendations about projects that should be considered and prioritized in future CIP that relate to Vision Zero, that's fine. What we think is more productive is to have you all involved in the projects that are already in the CIP and how to best integrate Vision Zero principles into those projects that will be funded.
Okay, and then Cynthia goes on to say, if we could get the task force appointed, then we could have an event to announce the task force members, the public input opportunity on the website with the map survey and our Vision Zero planning work. We can send out a social media blast the last week of August. I think that would be a good timing. Can use Bike to Work Day and Light the Night, September 14th, to further publicize Vision Zero. And Bike Month is actually September this year, right? So, so that would be good timing to try to. And Vision Zero is beyond bikes, but it's, you know, we might as well take advantage of Bike Month. So I'll bring up that list up there, and we can go through it a little more.
Could I make one comment? I guess as far as the meeting, I mean, this group was, to my mind, it was kind of thought of as sort of as an advisory group. And we were thinking of meeting maybe 3 times a year. So I think, so the involvement by staff, such as someone from the police department, we were not planning on any of this being onerous on any staff.
Yeah, because
So
we were hoping that we could get kind of high-level representation from public health and things like that too, that we just require one meeting 3 or 4 times a year probably, or 3 times a year, I think
it was 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So I think we were trying to design it so it wouldn't be too onerous on anyone.
Yeah. I mean, Rich Searles came to one of our meetings a couple years ago, or last year. I don't know, 2019, 2020, something like that. So we do occasionally get police participation. This would be a little bit more. Maybe it's something we can ask for and see what happens. So can you see this? Okay. These are the organizations: Age Friendly, Champaign-Urbana, CUMTD, School District. And since they listed possible contacts, but I would think that we would be inviting, we'd send the letter to probably a particular contact in these organizations, but just ask for a representative from those organizations. So it wouldn't necessarily be Julie Pride or Jennifer Irie Tatum if they have somebody else that they can nominate. Police department. Boy, it'd be great if we had a police officer that was really interested in bicycle patrol or bicycle pedestrian issues or something, and that officer could serve on the task force, really. Champaign County Regional Planning Commission, PACE, Champaign County Public Health District, University of Illinois, which we could just use our own representative there. Human Rights Commission, so that's not a staff, but it is a city entity. Public Works would either be Shannon or somebody else. Community Services, Safe Routes to School, Urbana Park District, Champaign County Bikes, Urbana Traffic Commission, People for Safe Streets, and Urbana Business Association. So see, there already are at least four members that would be BPAC members already, because we were also talking about replacing BPAC meetings with the task force meetings. So instead of having BPAC meetings 3 times a year, it would be a task force meeting. And everybody would be welcome to attend, but these members would be representative members.
I believe the Urbana Business Association is no longer in existence.
Oh, yeah. So we'll take that one off.
And I'm not sure if there's a page 2. Is there a second page?
I think that was it. There's another page, but it's just, it's a list of contacts for Age Friendly.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
So did you say take off People for Safe Streets too? No.
The Urbana.
Okay, that's one of us, I think. So just UBA.
Yeah.
Anybody you want to add? I know you haven't had a chance. I mean, we've looked at this before and talked about it, so.
I think it's just more important that we get started and people will get on board. As they get interested in it and see what we're doing.
This could be tweaked. We just need a place to start. So Cynthia was asking that we approve this with a motion recommending the mayor invite people from these organizations to serve on the task force. Vision Zero Task Force. Somebody want to make that motion?
Do we maybe want to have a draft of a letter instead of like just blindly going at this and be like, hey, mayor, suggest this to people? Maybe give her something to go off
I
of.
I think Cynthia and Audrey do have something like that. I know Audrey's been working on some draft agendas for the task force, but we would provide something like that. But this is just direction actually from BPAC, I guess, to Cynthia to go ahead and approach the mayor with this list and see how far we can get with it. I mean, I understand the concerns, but I think hopefully we can work out time issues so that it's not too big of a burden on anyone. Does that answer your question? I don't know.
Yeah, for me, just going in blind at this, like without seeing this draft either, like I would prefer to see it before it actually gets sent out. So that way we can all have an input and like, well, I don't like this sentence, or, maybe we can word it more concisely this way.
Okay, well, we can distribute that, but we would like to get it done in August. I mean, we will have one more meeting, I guess, in August, but it might be too late to send out a letter by then. But let's distribute the letter once there's a draft, and you can submit comments back to Cynthia on the letter. Your mic wasn't on, I could hear.
I thought a previous meeting we had a letter.
Oh, did
Yeah.
we?
I think so.
A draft letter like
I
from
can
the
look at-
mayor?
I can look online and see if it was uploaded
Okay.
to our BPAC meetings.
Okay. Yeah, so is there a motion to do that?
I move that we submit this list and a draft letter to the mayor as soon as we can, hopefully before the August meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? Yeah,
I second the motion.
okay. The list as amended without the UBA. Is all in favor of that? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thanks. And that's really, I'm sure Cynthia would have had more probably on Vision Zero, but that's really all she had in her email, so that's all I'm going to present tonight. So I think getting this moving forward so that by our August meeting, we can really plan the launch in September is a good first step, a good step, next step. Okay, for the website corrections. I just wanted to go through some of this because I know we've talked about before, and really we'd like to have these updated. So I don't know if Shannon or Shelby or who's going to be able, or if there's a web person at the city that can do this.
I think for these, I think Kate actually has to update these. I think these are high admin ones, because we had to have something in Public Works updated, and we couldn't do it ourselves. We had to get the mayor's assistant involved, so.
Okay, I mean, hopefully these, I mean, you know, we talked about this a couple years ago and tried to redesign some things and make suggestions on a higher level, but really this is just a matter of getting accurate information instead of inaccurate information. So for example, board commission members, Leo hasn't been on for a year, so we need to remove him. We need to put Shannon in here because she's a member, and need to put me in here because I'm still a member. I think I got deleted from everything after the city council changed. So I need to be back on here as chair. So if we could get somebody to make those 3 changes, add 2 people, delete 1, that would help. We
I
also
also-
have 2 more annual reports. I know.
I have one. My contact is wrong here. It should be 217-300-9575.
Oh, okay. Well, no
And
wonder
or
you
you
haven't
can
been
use
getting
my
any
email
calls.
address here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, your email address possibly instead of your phone number.
Do you want your phone on there, or you want your email?
I'm okay with either, but just to be uniform, I think email should be better.
I think email would be better. We have Sartak's email, so if somebody could put that in there. We did, Nancy and I did talk a little bit about at least having a phone tree among us so that we can talk to each other one-on-one. So it'd be nice if everybody's comfortable with it, to submit your phone numbers to one of us, and we could distribute them so that we all have each other's phone numbers and say, hey, you need want a writing partner to the BPAC meeting today, or a walking partner.
I would say for Sarthax, one last thing, it would be good if he had who he was representing would also be, I think, helpful to the public.
Yeah, that would be nice too.
I'm sorry, what?
Sarthax name just says Sarthax name. There's no reason, there's no like at large or
Oh,
University
yeah,
of Illinois.
University of Illinois.
Yeah, I think that would
Okay,
be
yeah,
helpful to
University
people.
of Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay. This is great. I wouldn't have caught that. Okay, and we need a 2019 and 2020 report. I know the 2020 was presented to City Council. I can send anybody a copy of that if they want. 2019 actually wasn't presented to City Council because that was when everything was getting shut down, and that was about the time we usually do our report in early 2020. It would have been the 2019 annual report presented in 2020. We did discuss it here and I should have that. I'll send that to whoever wants it. Let's see, there was something else on this page, I think. Maybe that was it. Oh, on the commission members and terms, these are all pretty much expired terms, so we need to update when these expired. And same thing, take Leo off, and change Morgan.
Add me.
So, you know, just whoever is in charge of this needs to update that. So that's that's the first page people see when they come to our commission meetings. So I think that's the most important things, to get those right. And then the Spike Urbana, the first page on that, whoops, what happened to it? I think I went back. Okay. This is out of date. It should show through 2022 or something. There's a new shield that's in my annual report. Actually, I could bring that up if you want. Yeah, so it should go through 2022. So hopefully that's not a big change. I think I noticed that this map was a slightly older version, but I don't know. I think the main thing was to get the contact information right and the members right and the annual reports. Those, it seems like those are all pretty small changes that maybe somebody could just make on the website. I don't know if it has to, I don't know whoever posts minutes and stuff, if that takes a different skill to change the links or not, but there are some things we'd like to add under here, like there's, I don't know if you know that bike safety quiz. It's really hard to find because it's not under Bike Urbana anywhere, I don't think. It's safety tips. No, I think you actually have to go to the police website to find that, right? Because that's so under police, there's a bicycle violations, and then there's this bike safety quiz. So that's not very intuitive. If we could get bike safety quiz a little bit more higher visibility on the bike site, I think that'd be great.
I'll have to look into what capabilities I have, because I do add the agenda to the website and I do add the minutes. But I think there's different levels of admin on what I can add as either an author admin or just regular admin. So I'll have to look into that to see what changes I have
Okay.
the ability to make.
Oh, I remember what the other thing was on the first page. It was the bylaws, because we did amend the bylaws. Where'd it go? Yeah, so we amended the bylaw, we amended the bylaws in December last year, adding the youth member, which we haven't had appointed yet and haven't really gone out and sought applications, but maybe once school gets back in session. I did send out some inquiries to contacts at schools and didn't hear back from anyone. I don't think we ever got any applications I know of. And it's not something, that we need to fill, but if there's an interested student, at least we have that capability now. But that was our amendment to the bylaws, so that should be updated too. So
Would-
yeah, if
Bill,
somebody,
if you send me that wording that you were using to to call. I would be happy to put it on the Historic East Urbana Neighborhood Association like page and get it out there and see if we can get, I can also send it to like Tracy at Sola Gracia and other places.
Yeah. I mean, I'd kind of like to go through the schools as much as possible, I think, to get a little broader, cast a broader net maybe, rather than, a couple of neighborhood associations where we have a lot of.
I was trying to get students though. Isn't that
Yeah.
where we'd get students? Or are you? I'm not sure. Like, I mean, I assumed we get students, but we're not. But you want to go right through the school. You think you'll have more success contacting the schools to get students?
To get high school students, yeah, like
Okay.
Urbana and Uni, we contacted last time. Yeah, I think that would probably be, I mean, let's try it one more time. If that doesn't work, then we'll use the old Wuna Huna and get somebody. I'm sure we could get somebody in a week if we wanted to. Okay, yeah, so what do you guys think? Can I ask staff to focus on this front page, this main page, and get the corrected links? And then we can work on some of the other stuff later, maybe once, I don't know what happened with the website redesign and everything, but if that ever gets started again.
Yeah, so all the hours that this committee spent on updating all those pages and redoing all that language and everything, I know it still exists on my computer, so if the city ever wants access to that, I am happy to send that over again, but the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Commission spent many hours updating language and updating text, so just want to put that out there.
Okay.
It would also be good to put the pedestrian master plan on the website as one of our documents.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, if we could add in this document list all the plans, so the bike master plan. Well, that's under Bike Urbana, yeah. Yeah, we don't have a walk Urbana, do we? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so probably this page is the only place we could put the link to the pedestrian master plan and the bike master plan. And I suppose the signage, what do they call it? Wayfinding plan. Those three. If we could add those there, that would be good too. Okay, that's all I had on that. So,
Before we have any kind of motion discussion, I do want to advise this would be definitely at staff availability, especially if we have to get Kate involved for changing some of these, so it is not going to be quick or instant, so.
okay, I mean, we're talking about updates and corrections on this one page.
No, I'm saying, but like a lot of time, like Kate is the master of all things, so there are some things she's the only one able to update, so if it is something she has to do,
Okay,
we won't be able to get to it until she can,
I understand.
so.
We're just trying to narrow it down from last time, 2 years ago, we presented a pretty big, ambitious program to redesign a lot of things, but this is just correcting and updating information.
Would it be helpful to Kate if we sent an email with specifically what needs to be updated? So, I mean, I do web updates for my job frequently, and so it would take me, if someone told me what to do, it would take me, probably about 15, well, let's just give it 30 minutes. Let's say 30 minutes. Would that be helpful, or is it better if we just kind of keep the process that Bill just presented?
Yes, put it all into one email.
Bill, do you want to put it into one email and then?
Yeah, I can do that. Or else just ask for a login. I don't think. Okay. So I'll send a email.
I mean, there are some things that Shelby can update, like I think maybe the contact list, but
As a person who does web updates, I think it'll be a lot easier for her if it's like, here's the attached pedestrian master plan. Here is the attached 2021
Yeah.
gold image. Here is the, like, really specifically just something that she can just quickly move through. I mean, it might be an hours of work, and I can understand not having an hour, but it's like, I think if it's like a very specific email that's like, Leo hasn't been on this committee for over a year. Craig, I don't even know when Craig left, but he's still listed on this website. Like there's things that really need to be updated. So I think
Okay, I don't think we need any motions. I'll just send an email with a list of links and changes.
Yeah, if you could send that email to me, because I'm happy to look into whatever changes I'm able to make. I can do those pretty quickly. I just don't know that I can do everything. I just don't know that I even have the admin capabilities to do it all. But I'll do what I can.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. And then this item 7 on our agenda is a new item that I found in our bylaws that suggested that this be on the agenda. So reports of city officials and staff and reports of committees. So Shannon, is there anything you'd like to report? Any updates or anything? Okay. Any reports of committees? I think Vision Zero is our only active committee right now that I'm aware of. Is that right? Or is Slow Street still active?
Well, we've taken kind of a pause. I guess that may be something for a future
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, I would say people are very interested in it. People very much want it. But it's not something a group of volunteers can do. We would actually need city assistance on this, and the city is unable to assist at this time. So there's not much. We've just run into a wall.
Okay. But yeah, this will be the spot on the agenda for any updates like that. New business, we don't have any announcements. Anyone have any announcements?
Yes. Okay. So we are going to remove some abandoned bike paths. So the bike path along Springfield that goes through to Goodwin Avenue from CIF, like the new building that's been constructed right past Granger Library. So, like Springfield Avenue, like, so that's coming off, hopefully in the next month or so. The 6th Street bike path along Wohlers, that's coming off. Again, these are all listed in the campus bike plan from 2014. And the third one is Laredo Taft bike path that goes that connects the 6th Street to 4th Street behind the Siebel Design Center, the newly constructed design center. It's right next to, there are some bushes on one side, there's a
Just south of
multi-use
Huff.
path. Yeah.
Just south of Huff Hall.
Yeah, so that's also on the list. And the 4th one is behind IBRL. So, and there's a bike path that connects, so we call it the Peabody bike path for some reason, but it's like when you are going east from like the ABE behind IBRL, like from ABE, there's a intersection of bike paths, and then the bike path connects, like curves towards Pennsylvania Avenue, and we are just removing that.
I have a suggestion on that one. I almost crashed in a hole because there was terrible traffic control on that. So
Yeah.
could you please have a big announcement that the bike lane ends before you hit the curve?
Yeah.
So I have a question. So you're
Yeah.
taking out all these bike lanes?
So yes. So for Springfield Avenue, we had already moved the bike path north through the Beckman Hall Beckman Quad. Like there's a multi-use path that goes along, that connects Clark Street bike path and all the way through to Main Street. For rollers, it's going to be a bike lane instead of a bike path. And for Laredo Taft, there is a multi-use or shared use path that's already there. So that's going to solve that purpose. And for the bike path that's behind IBRL, it's also there's also a multi-use, the shared use path present. The campus bike plan from 2014 called for a shared use path to go straight all the way to Goodwin Avenue Extended, and then and then turn right into then it would connect to the bike lane on Goodwin Avenue all the way to Pennsylvania, where there are sharrows. So that's how the connectivity would work according to the bike plan. But we are at this particular moment, we are just removing the bike path and having like a shared use path that connects that intersection to Pennsylvania.
And why are the bike paths getting removed?
Because it's not in the best condition. There are some obstruction there, and another thing was we want to increase the green space. There is too much concrete in that area. It's all concrete actually. Since they've added a parking lot by IBRL, it's all concrete over there. So we're actually going. It's going to be a decent size garden type thing, hopefully in the next few years.
Will the shared use paths have yellow striping down the middle?
We are going to add not all the way through to the not all the way through, but where the bike path intersection happens, we'll add a striping from there connecting to the shared use path, but not on the shared use path itself.
Sometimes I think pedestrians get annoyed because they see bicycles on their sidewalk and they don't understand that that's actually a designated bike path.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, and when I go to the volleyball games at Huff Hall and
Yeah.
it's time to leave, I use the bike path, and then I don't, all the people that are walking, four abreast as they should, which it sounds to me like that bike path's gonna get taken out. And there's a big parking lot there that's really dangerous for me to bike through to try to get to the bike lanes on the street.
Yeah.
So the workaround, I guess, is just to bike through the pedestrians. I don't know. I mean, I know we have no say in this, but it kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, there may be other things to consider about it, but I prefer if I'm riding on a shared use path, I prefer using one that has at least some bicycle striping on it. So if I'm passing in a pedestrian, I say, behind you or something, they'll be ready for it, or, I'm always going slow.
Yeah.
Hopefully people will go slow.
Yeah, a sign that says this is a shared use path. Cyclists have the right to use it,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard because people always think that you're, if you bike on the sidewalk, you shouldn't
Yeah.
bike on the sidewalk. It's perfectly legal to bike on the sidewalk, except in the downtown area. It's frustrating.
I will talk to Stacy about it as well,
Yeah.
but I'm sure as I said, we have a plan to mark the intersection, the bike path intersection to the shared use path, and in that marking there will be a bike sign, right there, at the connection point.
Just to add a
At
bit
the
of an
intersection.
anecdote,
Yeah.
you obviously were not in town before the bike paths were changed on Wright Street. When I came to college, you would get Schwind, So like there was, people would just walk out in front of bikes. There was no delineation of like pedestrian versus bike, and it was a crap storm. So I don't trust students. I don't ride my bike on campus during the day, like the week. I do the weekends.
Yeah.
So I think Bill and Annie's point of a free-for-all is going to lead to probably some injuries.
Okay. So,
And the other thing, it's like, I feel bad when pedestrians are in the bike, what is now considered a bike path that's being ripped up. And they are like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm supposed to be over here. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But it really will, when I am biking now where I can legally bike, they're going to think that I'm encroaching upon their space. I also can't help but get over the irony of ripping up a bike path to put in a car parking lot, especially when the majority of people, cars hold about 25 cars, and those bike paths, have hundreds, if not thousands of users a day. So it's a little ironic to me, and it's a little bit of an equity issue. So it's just kind of too bad.
yep.
Thanks
Yeah.
for warning us.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Well, another announcement. Well, it's an old announcement, but the Bike to Work Day again. Like it's going to be September 14th from 7 to 10 a.m. and Light the Night, September 14th, 4 to 7 p.m. And Campus Bike Center grand reopening will be on September 17th. I know I told this last month as well, but just FYI, I'll say that again next month as well too. So, yeah, I think these were the announcements from my side. I don't think I'm forgetting anything else right now.
Great, thanks.
I have an exciting announcement about my commute to work. The city of Champaign has put in bike lanes on Green Street. So Green Street past right is now two-way car traffic and bike lanes on either side, which is great for me because I use that twice a day now. So I'm pretty excited about that situation. And I'm incredibly excited about the Green Street infrastructure in Urbana, the completion of the MCOR project. It is just fantastic.
It's really nice.
Biking up that street now. Yeah, it is a game changer. It was scary before, and stressful. And now it is relaxing and enjoyable. And I just cannot thank the city of Urbana enough for doing that. It is just fantastic.
Yep. I've heard some good comments from a wheelchair user too that couldn't use that before, but now they can. Other announcements? Oh, do you have any announcements about Urbana Amble? How'd that go?
Yes, so it was the 2021 version of the Urbana Amble. The Urbana Amble is the front yard garden and art tour. And it was fantastic. We had about 40 different places that you could visit, and it was there was a 2-page map. In my opinion, I thought it was a map, and now that I realize that Dr. Westcott here has a GIS degree, why she looked at me and told me this is not a map. Just a geography degree. Just a geography doctorate. Oh, Bill, do you have a doctorate too?
No.
No, all right.
But he knows a lot about GIS.
All right. But yeah, it was incredibly successful. There was a Google map, and there was a paper map. And for me, who've done events, it was very interesting to see if people use the paper map or if they use the Google map, and where people would go. A lot of people would just look around for a couple in their neighborhood and go to the walk over to the ones in their neighborhood. A lot of this is about encouraging people to walk, bike, or transit to these locations. Other people would drive to a location and then walk around and see a couple places. So I think it's a real, I think it just says a lot of really good things about our city. It says a lot of really good things about the gardens in our cities. It was a light fundraiser and awareness raising campaign for CU Solidarity Gardens. And so just the number of gardeners in this city, and it was just great to get people out and about talking to each other, which is my real aim of the whole event, is to inspire people bring joy, and then get people talking to each other who might not normally talk to each other. So it was very successful. And we can really thank the infrastructure of the city of Urbana for creating a beautiful space with beautiful trees and beautiful gardens, and it was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I only went to maybe half a dozen or so, but I looked through the telescope tubes on Oregon. Those are pretty good. Those were fun. And but yeah, I liked the Google Maps. At first I was a little annoyed because I looked at it from your email. I clicked on it and it showed all the spots on the Google Map. And then like 2 days later, I opened my Google Map for something else and they're still there. I couldn't figure out how to get rid of them. But then turned out that was before the amble. The day of the amble, I was not at home. I was someplace else. I wanted to see if there was something close, and it was really handy because I didn't have to find the link. It was already there. Now they've gone away. I don't know how that happens. It just
Talk to me. What went away? What's the?
now when I open Google Maps, your points aren't on there anymore. But for a while there, anytime I opened Google Maps, they would still show up. So I must have somehow got it in my.
It must just be,
memory.
yeah, you must just have to have that URL, and unless you click, I mean, because that URL is a specific map that I've created just for the event, and I updated it with pictures yesterday, I believe, with all the new photos I took.
Ah.
So for me, it's a catching photo.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me know, if you could let me know if that works, because that's really important for me to know if this is, but that's what it is. It's a unique map that I create for the event with just a unique URL.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it worked out fine for me. I thought it was pretty cool.
And actually, we used just the addresses, and it was lovely that they were in order, walking order. We didn't use the map, we used the addresses because you put them in order.
Yeah.
And that was great.
Yeah, so I created a PDF, a piece of paper, and I put that in order because I think some of you have picked up on the fact that I'm terrible with street names and terrible, like I don't have a good map memory in my head. So what I do when I create this is I put them in order so you can just walk to each of your destinations and you can just keep following all the locations. So that's how the piece of paper works. But I did have a younger person bike up to, she was on bike and she was with her dad and she was like, whoever did this map, this is amazing. This is so perfect for my generation. And I was like, this old lady made it for you. So that was kind of cool.
Well, thanks for doing that. That was fun. Anything else?
I was just saying, next year's update, we will have gardeners and artist hours, sort of like office hours. So you'll be able to actually talk to some of the gardeners because I found for me that was some of the most fulfilling moments is when I would, like I looked at one garden, I'm like, eh. And then when Robert came out to talk to me about his garden, I was like, oh, wow, this is a really interesting space. So that will be next year's update.
Okay, just don't get into competition with Master Gardener's Walk. Any future topics people want to include on future agendas?
Sarthak, could we talk about bike share? It's my understanding there are only 500 bikes, I believe, on campus. And I know we don't have a unique, I know we're still in this, I believe we're still in a situation where both cities and the university are kind of like bidding out for people or saying like anybody can do bike share. It just seems to me that there's one company that is very successful, and I'm wondering if there's any way we can help make them more successful, or if we want to have them come talk to us, or because it's my understanding that they cannot add more bikes to campus.
So right now we are in the process of updating the IGA, and as soon as that goes through, they can have 750 bikes on campus. And in that IGA amendment as well, like previously City of Champaign was the lead agency, and now it will be the university. So, but as to the point, like if I'm understanding you correctly, like you're saying if we can make them like a single source or
yeah,
a
the
sole
exclusive, because they said
Yes.
that they would brand them. They said we would
Yeah.
brand them orange and throw Illinois on there for you, Annie.
Unfortunately, we cannot do that. And we even went through another route trying to loop in MTD, but they also said no at that point. So we cannot do or sole source with VO, but again, like they've been really good over the past 3 years now, right? They've been here 3 years. Yeah. So hopefully.
And it's my understanding
Yeah.
they went to the Juneteenth celebration and they dropped a bunch of bikes and kids rode a bunch of bikes there. So I think they're a great community partner.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, would we want to have them come and do an update with us on where they're at, or is that not interesting to anybody else?
We've done that a couple times. I don't know.
We can do that. I can send them an email asking them for an update to the BPAC, maybe next month, maybe the month after. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
And the other partner with us would be the CUMTD. It's my understanding they are going to be moving towards a zero emissions on all their buses. I don't know if we'd ever want to have CUMTD come and talk to us about what they're up to, get an update from them.
It's a little outside our mission, I think. I don't know. Unless they have new ways to load bikes on buses. Or I don't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's Sustainability Commission they could talk to. Unless they're going to talk about loading bikes on buses or where to wait for buses, new bus stops. I don't know. I think we'll have our hands full with Vision Zero and the equity projects for a while. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for coming. This meeting is adjourned.